Hey guys, Shop here with another 3-minute champion guide. This one is on Lee Sin. In the previous guide on Vi, which by the way there is a link to in the description, I asked you guys to vote for the champion that you wanted to see next, and quite obviously Lee Sin has won that vote, but I'll be doing the same again for this video. Stay tuned at the end where I'll give you the details on how you can vote for the next champion. Now Lee Sin is widely regarded as one of the hardest jungle champions to master, but that does come with great reward. Lee Sin is very capable of completely destroying a game just by himself. He's very powerful early and mid game, although he does fall off a bit late game, especially as far as his damage is concerned. He fills multiple roles, either being a good tank or being a good DPS assassin, and he's also very good at doing that in your face style of jungling, where he's complete pain in the ass for the enemy jungler. For runes I go flat AD, so AD reds, AD quints, armor yellows and magic resist blues. Masteries I'm either 2190 or 921, it really just comes down to what you prefer to play, whether you like to have more damage early or whether you like to be more tanky. For skill order I'm always maxing my Q first, but second you can either get your W or your E, it really doesn't matter. If you max your E second you'll have more damage and also quite nice utility with the increased attack speed slow, but if you max your W second then you will have a larger shield. Your build on Lee Sin is something very similar to what I suggested in my previous Vi guide. You can either go tanky or you can have a DPS build. A tanky build is, as always, safer and less punishing, so if you are less experienced with Lee Sin I would definitely suggest that you build tanky. It's also easier to do your team fights if you are tanky, and you still have decent damage early and mid game, but most definitely your damage will fall off in the later stages of the game. Your build is pretty straightforward if you decide to go tanky with an ancient golem, Moby boots and sightstone as your core, and then just other tank items filling up your build. All of the stuff you're seeing on the screen now are good choices. Sightstone on Lee Sin is a very good item because not only does it give you the traditional benefits of a sightstone, i.e. you can just put wards down, which is very nice for a jungler because they are running all around the map, but also on Lee Sin especially you can ward hop and make a lot of plays with it. A DPS build is good at snowballing, it's also good at split pushing, and your damage won't fall off as hard, obviously. However, it is more difficult to play those team fights, and if you are making mistakes, it is very unforgiving. Your core items would be an Elder Lizard with your Moby boots, Sightstone, but all the other items you're seeing on the screen are good depending on how the game is going with your snowballing and all that kind of stuff. And again, you don't really want to be a pure DPS build when you're playing as Lee Sin. It can work, but it's pretty risky, so you want to chuck in a few tank items here and there as well. And finally, I want to mention about the Sightstone. You can actually forego getting Sightstone. You don't have to get it if you feel like you are snowballing hard enough and can instead spend that gold on more damage items. Early game is where Lee Sin really shines, and you want to be dominating your opponents. There are very few situations where Lee Sin cannot kill the enemy jungler 1v1. He's great at invading the enemy jungler and he's great at ganking as well. Just try to have as much pressure as possible and try to snowball if you can. Mid game you're still very powerful and have a lot of damage, and so you want to be playing this very similar to how you play your early game, but you can also be making plays for dragon and for tower dives. Late game your damage will have fallen off considerably, and the amount of direct pressure you can have is extremely reduced from early to mid game. I'm not saying that you can no longer have any pressure, I'm just saying that compared to what it was like in the early game, you're going to have more trouble. Ideally on Lee Sin you want to have ended the game before it reaches this late, but you can still have a lot of influence. In team fights you can either peel or you can carry dives. Which one you want to do really does depend on how the game is going, how fed the enemy carries are, how fed your carries are, etc. But in general, if you see an opportunity to kick the enemy carry into your team, you should take it. And finally, for some tips on Lee Sin, make sure to use your passive to clear as fast as possible, or when you are dueling. Use the second activation of your Q, the execute, in time with your smite for even larger burst. And also the hardest tip for Lee Sin, try to practice the insect move where you hit someone with your Q, as you're flying towards them you put a ward behind them and then you jump onto that ward and kick them back into your team all in 1 second. Now this is an extremely advanced tip and it does take a lot of practice, but it is definitely worth mastering. So that's it for this Lee Sin guide. This one ended up being a bit longer than I would have liked, but please don't get your lawyers to sue me. I hope you can understand. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if you want to influence what champion I use next, you can vote for the champion by following the link in the description to my Facebook page. Make sure you like my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/foxshoplol, and then cast your vote. But thanks very much for watching guys, and I will see you in my next video.